One afternoon, 3 members of a Colombian cartel were seen driving a jeep toward the crash site of a plane they had previously shot down from the air. Upon arriving at the location, one of them instructed the other 2 to lift a wooden crate from the wreckage, while he himself walked toward the cockpit to check the pilot's condition. However, he was surprised to discover that the pilot was a woman. When he tried to approach, the woman suddenly attacked. In a short time, she managed to take down the second man and pointed her weapon at the last one. She then forced him to load the wooden crate into the jeep. After successfully retrieving the crate, the woman shot and killed the cartel members and drove away with their jeep. This woman is Dominic, a highly skilled assassin from Ukraine. Her destination was the United States, but when passing through Colombian airspace, her plane was shot down by cartel members. Not long after escaping the crash, Dominic stopped at a secluded location and buried the wooden crate filled with weapons, then burned the jeep she had taken to avoid leaving any traces. She then continued her journey on foot. As night fell, she arrived at a small bar in a remote village. There, she met a man named Julio who approached her and started a conversation. Julio was curious if Dominic was traveling alone and why she came to that area. Dominic replied that she was a tourist on vacation. During their chat, she also asked Julio for help finding a place to stay, but Julio explained that there were no inns or medical facilities nearby, even the nearest hospital was nearly 4 hours away. This revealed how truly isolated the village was. Realizing this, Julio offered her a ride and invited Dominic to spend the night at his home, promising to take her to the city the next day. Dominic agreed and went with him. Upon arriving at Julio's house, their relationship grew closer, and eventually, they spent the night together. The next morning, Dominic reminded Julio of his promise to take her to the city. But before they could leave, Julio received an urgent call from his superior asking him to come to the scene of a new case. It was then revealed that Julio was actually a senior police officer. He apologized to Dominic and asked her to stay at the house until he returned. If she needed anything, she could ask his younger sister and their father, who lived next door.
Too bad. I speak English and Spanish. Did you speak Spanish, lady?
After Julio left, Dominic was warmly welcomed by Paulina, Julio's pregnant sister. She invited Dominic to have breakfast with her. Paulina already had 3 children and had been widowed after her husband died in an accident a few months earlier. Meanwhile, their paralyzed father, who used a wheelchair, lived with them.
Buen partido.
On the other side, the police were evacuating the bodies of the 3 cartel members Dominic had killed. When Julio arrived at the scene, he was shocked to learn that one of the victims was the brother of the cartel boss who held great influence over the village. Apparently, the entire village was under the control of this cartel boss, and most of the local police had long collaborated with the cartel through either bribes or threats. Given this, Julio began investigating who was truly behind the murder of the 3 cartel members. The next morning, while having breakfast with his family, Dominic joined them. Julio immediately apologized for not being able to keep his promise. But Dominic didn't mind, as she had grown comfortable staying with Julio's family. Dominic then asked about the case Julio was working on. Julio said it involved the murder of 3 cartel members, one of whom was the local boss's younger brother. Dominic pretended not to know and simply wished that the case would be resolved soon. Julio revealed that he actually didn't care about the deaths of the cartel members, since they were troublemakers. The problem was that his superior, the police chief, was very loyal to the cartel boss and was pressuring him to find the culprit quickly. Julio was actually the only honest cop left in the village, and he had long been trying to bring down the police chief and the cartel boss, but had yet to succeed. Not long after, Julio received a call from his boss asking him to come to the station because 2 suspects had been arrested. Before leaving, Julio asked Dominic to wait and promised to take her to the city once the case was resolved. At the same time, Paulina's oldest child, April, asked Dominic to stay one more night because they would be celebrating her birthday that evening. Dominic agreed and postponed her departure. Meanwhile, the 2 suspects were being brutally tortured by the cartel boss's right-hand man, used as scapegoats for the murders. Julio, who was at the scene, felt uneasy seeing the torture. Shortly after, the police chief arrived and took over the interrogation. He explained that one of the victims was the cartel boss's brother. The two suspects, who turned out to be mere tourists, insisted they knew nothing, but the police chief didn't believe them and ordered the execution of one of them. It was clear that the police chief was ruthless and would eliminate anyone who threatened his alliance with the cartel. That night, Julio's family held a small birthday party for April. Meanwhile, Julio stayed inside, focused on his laptop. He was monitoring footage from a hidden camera he had planted in the police chief's office. The footage contained evidence of the chief's crimes, including the false accusations against the two suspects. Apparently, Julio had been collecting this evidence for a long time with the intention of sending it to the central office in the city so the police chief and cartel boss could be arrested. He copied the footage onto a flash drive and met with a lawyer friend to hand over the evidence. But as soon as he handed it over, Julio was ambushed and knocked out. When he regained consciousness, he found himself in front of Police Chief Luis Santiago. It turned out the lawyer he trusted was actually one of Luis's men, planted to trap him. Luis was furious at what he saw as betrayal and demanded to know the location of the original recording. Julio firmly refused, even willing to die to protect the evidence. The next morning, Paulina's house was thrown into chaos when she screamed upon seeing a group of corrupt cops arrive, carrying Julio's decapitated head.
What are you doing here?
Dominic, who hadn't left yet, immediately fought them off and defeated all but one who managed to escape. Dominic then brought Julio's head to his father, who could only cry. The escaping officer returned to report to Luis that they had failed to recover Julio's laptop. Luis was stunned to learn that nearly 10 of his men had been defeated by one woman. He ordered all roads to be blocked and prepared to face her himself.
At
the house, April asked Dominic about her true identity. Dominic replied that what mattered most now was finding a way to escape, as she was sure the corrupt cops would come again looking for the laptop now in her possession.
Dominic! Dominic, wait, please!
¡Abril! ¡Abril, ¿dónde va?
Soon after, April reported that Luis was outside and wanted to meet. During their conversation, Luis still couldn't believe Dominic was the perpetrator. He asked who she really was and what her goal was. Dominic declared that she was just an ordinary person continuing Julio's mission to expose their corruption. Luis then threatened that in 2 hours, he would return with a full force and demanded she hand over the laptop, or Julio's entire family would be slaughtered. After Luis left, Paulina tried calling her friend but couldn't get help because all roads were closed. Dominic asked if there was another route, and the friend mentioned the only option was a mountain trail. Dominic then asked her to be ready to pick them up at a specific point the next day. She explained they had 2 hours to prepare. Dominic asked April and her boyfriend to help set traps around the house. They quickly got to work.
Secure the house.
Dominic also assigned April to turn on floodlights when she received a signal via walkie-talkie. Julio's father, who refused to hide, also helped in the fight. When Luis's troops arrived, Dominic gave the signal, and the lights were turned on, blinding the enemies. This tactic was repeated several times and successfully took down many foes. At the same time, Paulina, heavily pregnant, had to give birth alone. The second wave of enemies breached the house, but Dominic and Julio's father managed to kill them. Meanwhile, April's boyfriend killed enemies trying to enter from the side of the house. Luis was now left with only one assistant and 3 men. They attacked from behind and launched a missile at the front of the house. Dominic survived despite being thrown far. She then fought Luis's assistant in hand-to-hand combat. As she was about to lose, Julio's father came to her aid. Meanwhile, Paulina was nearly shot by the remaining 3 men, but Dominic arrived just in time and saved her. Paulina then showed her newborn to her father, who smiled before dying from his wounds. April cried as her boyfriend also died in the battle. At dawn, Dominic gathered the family to prepare for their escape through the mountain path.
No, 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 no!
Luis, now panicking after hearing nothing from his men, was visited by the cartel boss, who turned out to be a woman. The boss didn't believe all Luis's men could be taken down by one person. Luis vowed to continue hunting Dominic and the family. He also hired mercenaries. Ten minutes later, Dominic and Julio's family reached the meeting point. Dominic told Paulina and the children to get into the car quickly. But as they entered, her friend was suddenly shot. They were ambushed by the mercenaries. Dominic fought them off and defeated them all. But as the car driven by April moved forward a few meters, more enemies appeared and flipped the car, causing it to explode. Dominic, who was some distance away, arrived and shot them, but was devastated to see April and the family dead. She vowed to hunt Luis and the cartel boss wherever they went.
Tengo tanques aquí, nadie se va a venir a buscar.
A week later, news on television revealed all of Luis's crimes and his links to the cartel. Luis became a fugitive. He hid in the cartel boss's house. But the next day, both of them were found dead. Dominic had finished them off. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.